The future of the Empire is already looking bright, someone observes as they watch Lena and Callus together. A saint has descended from the heavens. It truly is a blessing from above. Oh, is that not your intended beside her, Lady Syria? It looks like the two of them have already become close. How envious! Syria's blood is boiling. Callus, you punk, our wedding is only a week away, she fumes. An image flashes in her mind. I could march down there and rip all his hair out right now, but there are a lot of eyes on me. I've got to restrain myself. She forces a smile. My fiancé is such a social creature, she says, then coughs roughly. Her attendant notices. Oh my! Have you yet to recover from your cold, my lady? Later this evening I'll prepare you some more medicine. Just then, Dukeston appears. Lady Syria, he says sternly. Yes, your grace, she replies. If you remain out on the terrace and your condition worsens, that meddlesome fiancé of yours is liable to make a scene and send for a high priest. Syria apologizes, but the Duke continues. The saint is to be escorted to the high church as soon as possible. I don't want any more fracases in my palace. The attendant starts to object. Be but your grace, Syria thinks to herself. He might seem cold now, but one day soon he'll be gazing at the saint with love-filled eyes. That is the fate of the male lead at the end of this story. She thinks, we're actually characters in a romance novel about a dimension-jumping heroine named Lena who falls into another world and is showered with love by the primary and secondary male characters. The villain of the story, the one who suffers a very horrible death, is none other than the woman whose body I now possess, Syria Stern. Syria inherited the power of the gods and was granted the title Stern. She might have been the most holy being in the Empire, but that didn't stop her from committing depravities as if she had some sort of fetish for being wicked. If you asked 100 people what they thought of her, 150 would describe her as a high society troublemaker. Her pastime was extravagance. Her specialty? Dissipation. Even her relationship with her family was atrocious. As for her, she was just a normal college student. From the moment she realized she was now in Syria's body, she have only been thinking one thing. I don't wanna freaking die. Of all the characters, why Syria? I don't wanna die. She'd already met an untimely demise in her last life, so she didn't want to die in vain again this time around. Before Lena, the main character, shows up, she have gotta find some way to get rid of all of Syria's enemies. We see her apologizing and then a gift blitz, she narrates. I faced a lonely, uphill struggle trying to change Syria's reputation. Back in the present, Callus is recovering. You once tried to remove my arm, my lady. What are you up to now? Stop squirming, Callus. I need to treat you, he asks. Where did you get those herbs? Syria replies. From the cliffs below the church. This will allow you to use your arm again. Callus is surprised. What? You mean you ventured out on the cliffs alone? She confirms. That's right, Syria thinks. Callus is the one who kills Syria in the story. I've got to find a way to make him like me. As she bandages his arm, she reflects. And so, it was only by pure coincidence that the secondary male character fell in love with Syria in the process. Callus asks, blushing. What's brought on this change in you? We see them together under the night sky. Why don't the two of us get married, Syria? He asks, holding out a ring. Since the original story ends with the main male and female characters falling in love, and Callus committing suicide in despair, she thought this could be an improvement. She makes a vow. Yes, a perfect tweak to the storyline. Without her getting in their way, won't their love story run smoother than it did in the novel? So she made a vow. I hope I would avoid getting tangled up with the two leads at all costs, she thinks. She and the Duke will make a connection soon. I clearly promised myself, but... A few days later. Oh! Callus's intended! Lena exclaims. The door opens, and Lena appears, smiling brightly. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I'm Lena. I've been longing to meet you. Syria shakes Lena's hand, but inside she's screaming. What's going on here? I said I didn't want anything to do with them. Lena's all smiles, introducing herself and declaring she's from another world, which is why everyone calls her a saint. So I've heard, my lady. Syria replies, while Syria thinks to herself. I've been trying everything I can to avoid this girl. Lena cheerfully asks Syria if her wedding dress fitting is today. Syria responds with a polite, yes, my lady. But internally she's screaming. What the heck is she doing here? Lena gushes over the idea of a wedding dress from another world, confessing she's been burning with curiosity about all the splendid gowns. Syria thinks, but more importantly, oh, Callus is intended. Syria's blood runs cold as she wonders why Lena and Callus are already on a first-name basis. It took me 11 months to get him to let me call him by name, she despairs, sniffling. Looks like old habits die hard when it comes to the heart. Lena turns her attention to Syria. Oh, and Syria, she says, as Syria responds with a wary, yes, my lady? Lena then asks if she can watch Syria change into her wedding dress. Pardon? Syria asks, shocked. What? She wants to watch me undress? That sounds a bit. The designer, Begonia, arrives with a clack and declares, Saint Lena, I do beg your pardon, but being fitted for one's matrimonial attire isn't some sort of spectacle. She continues, furthermore, the privilege of attending such a fitting is only extended to the bride's attendants, close relatives, and the most intimate of friends. As it stands, none of those classifications apply to you. Lena, startled, apologizes, explaining she still hasn't gotten used to the customs of this new world. Syria thinks, come to think of it, Begonia was also a villain in the original story. I think Callus ended up firing her for being cruel to Lena. Lena said farewell with tears in her eyes. Well then, Syria, until next we meet again. As Lena dashes off, Syria wonders, why is this so much like the story? She steels herself, thinking, still, things are definitely going to be different this time around, right? Back at the mansion, Syria and Callus are talking. What do you mean, you want to change designers? Callus asks. You must already be aware since you were there when it happened. Callus goes on a rant. Saint Lena is someone who descended from the heavens. Of course, she is completely different from the tainted nobles. Syria thinks, you've got to be kidding me. He continues, even if that clothier was unable to understand the heart of a saint, to speak so harshly to another, it seems best to dismiss her. Syria thinks, I thought for sure the story would change. She realizes, Begonia was merely telling her not to make a spectacle of me. From a noble's point of view, Saint Lena's remarks were rather discourteous. He said, but Lena was only. She thinks, Lena? He flinched as she asked, did you just call the saint by name in front of your betrothed? He continues, that was a mistake on my part. Please be understanding, Syria. As for the clothier, it's just that I've been appointed as the saint's protector, so. Syria remains silent, clenching her fist. She realizes, even this is identical. In the original story, Lena's divine powers became highly unstable after she fell into this new world. The powers that be of the High Church appointed her a protector among the heads of the 17 houses that possessed the power of the gods. Callus, the head of House Hanaton. Given that setup, the two of them naturally grew close pretty quickly, but I thought that wouldn't happen now since Callus is engaged to me. Callus then asks, are you dismayed that I failed to mention my appointment as Saint Lena's guardian? She thinks to herself, maybe I've been too complacent. But if I get angry now, she said, and no? She thinks, things may end just as terribly as they did in the book. I can't let myself just die like that. Syria smiles and says, I understand, Callus. Internally, she's determined. I'm going to do everything I can to stay alive this time around. Callus is relieved. What a relief. I was afraid you'd gotten upset. He leans in, saying, thank you for being so understanding, my beloved. Syria thinks, beloved? She's furious. Beloved, my ass! She storms off, and Callus calls after her. I'm terribly sorry, Syria. Apparently Lena's divine powers have run amok again. I must attend to her immediately. Syria fumes. It hasn't even been a full day since you last said her name like that, you son of a beach! It's so hard to be a good person. I think I've got a rough idea as to why Syria lived as a villain. Outside in the snow, Elliot, Knight Commander of House Burke, approaches Syria. You look unwell, my lady, he says. I'd heard you've been suffering from a cold. It seems today's inspection of the glacier has overtaxed you. Syria replies, not at all. This is something I must do. What are we talking about, you ask? Well, within House Burke's dominion, there rests an extraordinary mass of ice known as the Beast's Tomb. House Burke is charged with periodically checking the barrier around the glacier to prevent the emergence of monsters, and they require the power of the gods wielded by Stearns to do so. In the original story, Syria would occasionally put off going to the lake for inspections. Lady Syria! The inspection! Someone calls. Yeah? Who cares? Syria replies. She's determined. If I want to solidify my position and survive this, then I've got to properly carry out all of my duties as a stern, Elliot says. Why don't we finish here for the day and head back, shall we? She pauses as Rush approach. Lady Syria? He snaps. What are you doing here? Elliot said. Why, Your Grace, Rush said, for pity's sake, Lady Syria. Syria is shocked. Do you not hear me speaking to you? Rush asks, looking angry. Rush's voice booms across the snowy landscape. For pity's sake, Lady Syria, do you not hear me speaking to you? Syria turns, looking genuinely confused. Pardon, did I do something wrong? Rush is not having it. What possible reason could you have for coming out to the lake in winter while afflicted with a cold? Thank you for your concern, Syria replies. But it's not severe, she sighs, thinking to herself. And this is something I must do as a stern. Rush narrows his eyes. When did you begin taking your duties so seriously? The guard looks nervous. Isn't this just an attempt to weaken your health even more so that you might catch your fiancé's attention? Your Grace, the guard stammers, but Syria cuts him off. I didn't come here with any such intention. Furthermore, regardless of how sick I become, my betrothed would never, he then asked. Is it because of that saint? Syria's expression hardens. What is that supposed to? He interrupts again, his voice low and dangerous. Is Lord Callus having a liaison with her? Ouch. Syria is reeling from what she just said. How could he say such a thing? Rush, unfazed, asks. Have you finished with your inspection? Yes, Your Grace. The guard replies quickly. As they walk, the guard gushes. Thanks to Lady Syria's hard work, we were able to finish in short order. Syria is annoyed, thinking, who does he think he is, acting all high and mighty? Rush's gaze is intense. Well, Syria admits to herself, I suppose he is the male lead, and damn handsome to boot. Why's he gotta be such an asshole? Then it's time we returned, Rush announces. Yes, Your Grace, the guard says again. Syria is mortified. Ugh, we merely made eye contact. Rush's voice drips with concern as he says, we mustn't allow our precious stern's health to deteriorate any more than it has. Syria clutches her hands together. What's this for after all those sharp remarks? Syria wonders. Does he like me more than I thought? But quickly dismisses the idea. Still, it'd probably be best to avoid him as much as possible. There's something about him. He's the scariest out of all of them. Not to mention the way he talks. She sighs. I just want the wedding to wrap up as soon as possible so I can get out of this place. There's only one reason why I'm staying at House Burke's palace right now. Sterns are considered to be such holy figures within the empire that they can only take part in certain important rites, such as the exchanging of wedding vows, at a limited number of locations. One of those is House Burke's dominion, which guards the frozen lake. Syria sighs. Stupid book. I wanted to avoid holding the wedding here at all costs, mostly because this is where Lena and Rush, the two main characters, get married at the end of the story. As it turns out, Lena is actually a stern too. I know she's the main character, but still. Isn't this a bit contrived? A saint and a stern. No wonder the original Syria was so jealous of her. Well, the fact that Lena is actually a stern is only revealed at the very end. If I just get married and then quietly make my exit, I should be fine. My lady? Syria turns to see her escort knight, Abigail Orion. Bibi, how was the beast expedition? Did you make it back in one piece? You weren't injured, were you? Syria asks, her words tumbling over each other. Please pause to take a breath, my lady. Abigail replies, ever patient. Syria whispers, you didn't kill anyone by any chance, did you? I've told you, Abigail says. I never touch anyone but criminals. Everything went well. Abigail continues, though I did miss you when my armor turned as cold as ice, my lady. Syria's face falls. I knew I should have gone along. One of the biggest reasons why this world requires sterns is because armor is crafted using constellation steel. These special armaments known as star armor protect their wearers from being poisoned by magic. The knights who battle demonic beasts hold sterns in high esteem because without their intervention, their body heat would be stolen away by prolonged contact with star armor. We should hurry inside. You're liable to catch a cold, Abigail tells her. Syria thinks back to Rush's words. We mustn't allow our precious stern's health to deteriorate. That's probably why Rush Burke was acting so concerned. For now, at least, I'm still the precious stern. Syria smiles. Let's go in, Bibi. I want to hear all about what happened, she thinks. I'd better solidify my usefulness somehow before Lena realizes what she is. Meanwhile, Lena stands by a window. Lady Syria has changed a great deal this past year. She's become much closer to Marquis Hanaton. Why does Callus's fiancé visit the glacier every day? Lena asked. Because she's a Stern. Only Sterns can purify the lake's barrier, her attendant replies. She's been earning praise throughout the palace recently for her diligence in carrying out her duties. Lena's eyes narrow. I envy her. Pardon? Her attendant asks, confused. Lena smiles sweetly. The title Stern, can I get it? You're already considered a saint, my lady, her attendant says. But doesn't Stern sound more dashing? Lena continues. The glacier can only be purified using a Stern's magic, so everyone in the palace is so interested in her. Even with my divine power, I can't do that. A splendid welcoming reception will soon be held in your honor, Saint Lena. Although you will, of course, have to learn all the proper forms of etiquette with me first. Besides, not just anyone can become one. They are all children with divine power who are born on Wednesdays in winter. Each of them has a star somewhere on their bodies, and, in other words, Sterns are. Lena murmurs. Stern. I'm so envious. Your birthday is soon, Lady Syria, her maid mentions. The wintry Wednesday, I mean. Syria blinks, a little surprised. Ah, that's right. I've been so busy that I'd forgotten. We learn that Syria Stern was born on a wintry Wednesday. And apparently, a person has to meet several conditions to be bestowed with such a title, one of which is being born on a wintry Wednesday. A child born on Monday has a lovely face, Tuesday is filled with the God's grace, Wednesday is full of sorrow, and Thursday brims with all the love of tomorrow. Friday shows others kindness and grace. Syria reflects that in the original novel, she thought the lyrics to the rhyme were unfair when she heard them in the church. But after she awakened as a Stern, she quickly fell in love with having a wintry Wednesday birthday. She officially became a Stern on her 15th birthday, when the awakening of her spiritual powers was heralded by the appearance of a small star on her ivory neck. She immediately abandoned her family name, Keladin, and began proudly using her new title in its place. Because of that, her already poor relationship with her family grew even worse. Her maid continues. In addition, my lady, the saint has continued to show great interest in Constellation Steel. It's become quite concerning. Syria asked, isn't it dangerous for her to get close to Constellation Steel before her powers have stabilized? Syria thinks. Lena and Constellation Steel? She has such an inquisitive nature, her maid says. Syria thinks. She has a ton of curiosity, just like you'd expect from a typical female main character. Syria realizes. Although she did awaken as a Stern after touching a Constellation Steel monolith, her hand clenches. I should try not to worry too much about it. Once the wedding is over, I just need to go live quietly in House Hanaton's dominion until the rest of the story plays out. At least, that's what I was planning to do, but… Syria bumps into Rush. I keep bumping into this guy. A few minutes earlier, in the green garden vault, Syria admires the silver laurel boughs. It doesn't matter how many times I've seen these silver laurel boughs. They're still amazing. If a Stern were to become a plant, wouldn't they look just like this one? Inspecting the glacier isn't possible without it. The silver laurel, whose branches have the power to both strengthen and purify the barrier, is also used as a substitute by knights when a Stern isn't available. Should I ask Bibi to come with me today? Syria is startled. Rush remarks. You appear in quite high spirits, Lady Syria. Your Grace, Syria stammers. Oh, gee, greetings. She drops the branches. She asks, why did all of these fall? Syria laughs nervously. Rush reaches out to steady her. Are you visiting the frozen lake again today? He asks, picking up the laurel branches. Syria replies, oh, why yes I am. Rush says, pardon? I'm not sure I understand. As far as I'm aware, ample care has been taken with your chambers. Do you still find them lacking? Syria wonders. What is he talking about? Rush rises. Otherwise, it hardly seems necessary for you to inspect the glacier with such zeal. Isn't your recent diligence because you want something? Syria begins. Actually, that isn't exactly. Rush interrupts. Every time you visit my palace, you run about shrieking whenever something isn't to your liking. Over 100 servants were left bedridden after serving you. Come on, Syria, she thinks, then she said. Which means I must work even harder around here for the sake of those 100 people's past suffering. Rush grins. You really are quite the enigma. It may prove something of a pity when you leave for House Hanaton. Syria wonders. A pity? To whom? To this guy? Wow, what is this? Back in her chambers, Syria thinks. Seriously, what's going on? A maid announces. My lady, your wedding presents have just arrived. Take a look at them all. This sapphire was sent by Marquis Hanaton himself. What clarity! And the color is so deep! Syria reflects on Rush's words. A pity, huh? Hearing the male lead say that feels like I've been given some sort of guarantee that I'll make it through all this. It seems like I'm miles away from that doomed ending. Now I can finally focus on the wedding. Another maid presents a box. Here, my lady. I've also prepared the bracelet that you spoke of before. Syria thinks. Callus has given me so much. I'd like to return the favor by giving him something before the ceremony. Her maids gush. You're going to give that to Marquis Callus, aren't you, my lady? Oh my! How absolutely romantic, Syria thinks. Doesn't Lena discover a magic crystal mine in the original story? Until that happens, these are considered extremely precious gems, so I'm sure he'll like it. Suddenly, a maid bursts in. Lady Syria! It's a catastrophe! The saint, Lady Lena! She collapsed after touching the constellation steel monument. Not only that, the monument itself turned transparent and began to shine. Syria realizes. That means a new stern has appeared. Syria is troubled. This doesn't make sense. Lena's awakening as a stern happened near the end of the story, didn't it? Rush, ever concerned, asks. How is the saint's condition? Your Grace. An aide responds. Fortunately, the worst has passed, thanks to Marquis Hanaton's presence at her side. Syria glances at Callus. He hasn't even noticed I am here. An aide informs Rush. A new stern has appeared, Your Grace. Saint Lena will surely repay any kindness you bestow on her. Rush is lost in thought. Outside the room, Rush asks Syria. Lady Syria, were you also afflicted in such a way when you awakened as a stern? Syria responds. And no, Your Grace. My divine power is nowhere near as immense as hers. The effects a person experiences from constellation steel are directly proportional to the magnitude of their power. Rush said that means there's no way the saint was unaware of the fact that her body was overflowing with divine power. Yet she still insisted on touching constellation steel and causing such an uproar in my palace? Someone said. Oh, well. Perhaps she never entertained the possibility that she could be a stern. Rush turns to him. You are the one overseeing the saint's lessons, are you not? Then tell me, why would she do such a thing? The aide replies. Perhaps because she feels a vague sense of admiration for Lady Syria. Syria, surprised, thinks, Lena? For me? But why? The aide said, This is all my fault, Your Grace. Rush replies. Excellent. You have some awareness at least. Syria wonders, did she really touch it because she admires me? Or could it be that she wanted to check if she was a stern? In the book, Lena accidentally came into contact with constellation steel. Her divine power burst forth with such force that it nearly killed her, but the truth of her being a stern was finally able to come to light. Then does this mean she touched it on purpose this time, out of admiration for Syria? That's so different from the original. Your Grace, the Lady Saint, she has awakened. Lenin, Rush Burke's chief aide, announces frantically. Ah, good. Let us be on our way then. Rush starts to spin around. Why, Your Grace? Wouldn't it be nice to at least look in on H-? Rush interjects. Do I look like the saint's nursemaid? He sighs. Still, at least for the sake of relations with the high priests. He turns to Syria. Shall we go call on her together, Lady Syria? She is your fellow stern, after all. Syria gulps. Callus rushes into Lena's room. Lena! Lena is waking up. C.A. Liz. Callus. It hurts so much. Callus comforts her. Don't worry, Lena. You'll be fine. I'm right here by your side. Bibi whispers to Syria. Shall I cut off his hand? She doesn't respond. Father, Rush says. As you are aware, the Burke estate is extremely busy in winter. I don't have the means to keep this nuisance in my palace any longer. Syria thinks. Did he just call her a nuisance? Rush continues. Lenin, send word to the High Church that Saint Lena will be returning there as soon as she's able to move. One of the aides exclaims. Your Grace. Callus shouts. Isn't that rather excessive? It's not as though it was her choice to become ill, after all. Callus exclaims. And calling an invalid a nuisance? Rush responds. Come now, Marquis Hanaton. Can I not speak as I wish in my own palace? Callus shouts. Still, it's rather harsh. She is an invalid, after all. Rush retorts. It's good that you mention that. You keep using that word. Invalid. Your betrothed's condition is also far from ideal. Aren't your priorities a bit skewed? Callus says. Syria. Rush said, people may mistake the saint as your fiancé instead of Lady Syria here. Syria thinks. I'm not sure why, but I feel like I'm on the verge of tears. I'm the one who should be angry at Callus for tending to another woman, not Rush Burke. The way I've never allowed myself to get angry even once, and just stood by quietly through everything, all for the sake of avoiding Syria's fate in the story. Rush said this will be the first stern wedding ceremony we've had in some time. We must keep such vows sacred. Syria thinks. It's so embarrassing. I want to go home. I just want to live a peaceful life. Callus and Lena. I just want all of it to dash. My lady? Rush asks Syria. Shall we take our leave? The saint requires tranquility. He reaches out her hand. Come now. Callus whispers. Syria. Lena spams in bed. Callus, he asked Lena. Are you all right? Rush takes Syria's hand. My lady. Syria looks at Callus, then at Rush's hand. Yes, Your Grace. She looks conflicted as they left. After some time, Syria recalls Callus saying to Lena, Don't worry, Lena. You'll be fine. I'm right here by your side. Syria thinks. I haven't heard a word from him since yesterday. That jerk, as she holds a bouquet of branches. Lady Syria, she hears. Turning, Syria sees Rush, who greets her with, Lady Syria. She said, Oh, Your Grace. She recalls him asking, Shall we take our leave? The saint requires tranquility. Syria, looking down at the bouquet, thinks, Come to think of it, I never thanked him properly. She was about to say, Your Grace, about, but he interrupts saying, Will you be able to inspect the lake properly, after what you went through yesterday? If you're using this inspection as a means of escape, then why not simply ensconce yourself in the annex instead? She squeezes her hands anxiously. Syria replies, There's no need for concern, Your Grace. I shall fulfill my duties as meticulously as ever. I would never take such a thing lightly. I am a stern, after all. Rush begins to protest. My lady, that isn't what I... Suddenly a voice calls out. Syria? I've been wondering where you went. Callus said, So this is where you were. Am I invisible to you, Marquis Hanaton? Rush demands, clearly annoyed. Callus apologizes. Pardon my rudeness, Your Grace. I couldn't find my betrothed anywhere. I've spent much of the day searching for her. But I never expected to find the two of you here in such a secluded spot. Callus orders, Syria, come along W. But Rush cuts him off, his voice dangerous. I do not recall ever granting you permission to enter this vault. Are you unaware of the fact that no one aside from a stern may enter this place without my express approval as the Duke of this palace? Callus smirks and replies, Ha! I will gladly make restitution once I return to my own lands. If you have a specific sum in mind then, Rush interrupts, it isn't for the likes of you to decide your own punishment. We will follow the tradition of House Burke. He raises his hand, gloved in black. One of your hands should be cleaved off at the wrist. What do you say? Callus retorts. I was not aware that you wanted my hand, Your Grace. Are you keen on a war to break out between our houses? Rush said, It appears that you are the one hungry for war, Marquis. Syria thinks. They'd wage a war in winter just to prove their valor? Do they want everyone to freeze to death together? Well, you two wouldn't die. Your fighting spirits are blazing hot. Rush coldly replies. If it is a war you crave, then Burke will gladly answer. Callus said, It is you who seeks this, not I, Your Grace. Rush said, Very well. I shall have an urgent dispatch sent to your estate immediately, and... An urgent dispatch? What is happening? Syria exclaims, tugging at Rush's sleeve. Your Grace. Syria interjects. My intended has been most discourteous, but wouldn't waging a war over something this minor be cruel to the knights who are already responsible for minding the glacier in winter? I entreat you, Your Grace, please show the same benevolence that you have shown this stern. My betrothed will vow to never do anything so disrespectful again. Callus flinches hearing this. Rush looks down at the Callus and says flatly, Marquis, you have a most excellent fiancé. He passes by. Syria beams, relieved. Yes. Crisis averted. Callus calls after her. Syria. A word? Syria. Stop. I asked to speak with you. How can you run off on your own like this? You took hold of the Archduke's clothing so indiscreetly, and now you're behaving horribly indelicately simply because you're angry. Syria stops. You mean to say I'm the one whose behavior has been indelicate? The Marquis continues. Please try to calm yourself, Syria. You know that Lena is ill. She is a delegate of the gods who has come to us from an otherworldly plane. She has no one to rely on but me. Can't you understand that much at least? Looking up at her, he grabs her arm. She said, I am being understanding. He said, is this how you show it? Getting angry, spending time with another man, and no longer looking me in the eye? She said, you did exactly the same with the saint. He shouts. Those are two entirely different cases. Lena has been infirm. Syria yanks her hand away. Yes, they were different. Because I, at least, didn't call the Archduke by name in front of my intended. Let go of my hand. Callus reaches out. Syria, listen for a moment. But Syria has had enough. I've had enough of this. This prick is seriously. She pulls her hand forcefully that cause injury. Callus cries out. Syria! Syria looks down, her hand injured. I told you to let go. Syria! Callus calls out, but she yanks her hand away. How could you wrench your hand away like that? You've hit it against the tree. He scolds, concerned. Syria retorts. If I were you, Callus, I would have asked to break off our engagement and proposed to Saint Lena instead. Callus is taken aback. What? What are you saying? You are the one I love. But Syria's not buying it. Who would believe a man who fondly holds the hand of another woman in front of his beloved? Callus shouts her name again, trying to reason with her. But Syria's thoughts are spiraling. She reflects that she didn't fall head over heels in love like the heroine of a romance novel. But she did really like Callus. A dark shadow falls over her thoughts as she remembers that he originally kills her and then takes his own life after failing to win Lena's love. We share similar fates, she realizes. Since the main characters already have a happy ending laid out for them, wouldn't it be alright if the two of us enjoyed a bit of happiness too? That's how she tried to rationalize it. Tears well in her eyes. I'm so terrified that both you and Syria will be fated to die again. She said, You don't know anything. Don't you realize how terrified I am every time I see you by her side? Callus, noticing her distress, reaches out to her. Syria? He's immediately apologetic. I didn't mean to make you cry. I'm so sorry, Syria, truly I am. Please stop crying. This is all my fault. He embraced her in his arms. Let us leave for my estate as soon as the wedding is over. Once Saint Lena recovers, I promise to never see her again. I vow to be a faithful husband to you. Syria looks up at him, tears still in her eyes. Everything will work out as long as I put my faith in Callus, right? After all, trusting him is the easiest way to prevent Syria's death, she said. Just make sure you aren't late on our wedding day. He said, You've no reason to fret. I would never do such a thing. Syria just stares back, unconvinced. Meanwhile, Callus is visiting Lena. What are you trying to say? Today will mark the last day we may call each other by name. Callus said to her. She asked, Could this have something to do with your betrothed? Lena said, To tell the truth, Viscount Eisen has already lectured me on this topic. I suppose this means we have to refer to each other as Marquis Hanaton and Saint Lena? Callus confirms. That is correct, and it will be difficult for us to continue to meet after the wedding ceremony. Lena said, But you are such a dear friend. Lena is overcome with emotion. If only we could have met one another sooner. He calls her while moving his hand forward. Lena. Lena notices something new. I've never seen that bracelet before. Callus offers a small smile. Ah, you're quite perceptive. It was a gift from Syria. Lena's eyes narrow. Syria, Callus continues, oblivious to her growing resentment. I would like more than anything for Syria and I to become friends. It is a breach of etiquette to refer to someone you are not close to by their first name. Lena is seething. Always etiquette, etiquette, etiquette. Have you any idea how much I am having to restrain myself? Lena. And now Archduke Burke says I have to return to the High Church. It's terrifying. It's so distressing to have to lose a dear friend like you. Do you know how many times my world has changed? You said you were my protector. Was all that talk about taking care of me a lie? Callus is taken aback by her outburst. She said, You'll never know how happy I was when I heard you say those words. Lena. He reaches out to comfort her. He thinks she's absolutely right. She did come from another worldly plane, he said. I'm sorry, Lena. No more tears. Meanwhile, in his thoughts, he continued, all of this must be so frightening for her, not to mention that she's ill. I must be by her side, just this last time. He asked gently, are you feeling a little calmer? Lena nods silently, still upset. Callus, she said, I want to visit the glacier. Callus looks up, confused. The glacier? Whatever for? She explains. Now that I'm a stern, I'll be able to help Syria with her duties. Won't that improve our relationship? He said, I can understand your feelings, but right now your condition is… Before he could finish, she raised up and said, Callus, enough with the objections. I'm going, even if I have to do it alone. Callus sighs. Lena. He thinks she is a saint who is still under the protection of the Hanaton name. It would mean trouble for my family name if anything were to happen to her, he said. Very well, but we must make it quick. Lena agrees. You have my word. As they leave together, Callus thinks, this really is the last time, Syria. Back at the mansion, a servant reports to Rush. You are telling me they left the premises and now we have lost all word of them? Yes, Your Grace. Apparently, all contact with Marquis Hanaton has been severed. It's believed they got caught up in the sudden blizzard and lost their bearings. Rush clenches his fist. He must be out of his mind. That Marquis, does he intend to allow Lady Syria to die? Rush is fuming. He must be stark raving mad, Rushseed said. Perhaps they simply met with disaster while out for a stroll, Your Grace. But Rush is having none of it. Saying that amounts to allowing Lady Syria to die is rather, Rush said. There can be no simply when it comes to a Stern's wedding. It is not something that can be taken lightly. He thinks, if any aspect concerning punctuality, the venue, or any of the other set rules isn't properly observed, the Stern's power will erupt. In the worst-case scenario, she would die. His aide nervously asks, Your Grace? Rush clenches his fist, thinking, of course, that knave is fully aware of just how dangerous a Stern wedding is. And yet he still went out right before the ceremony? Should I have knocked him senseless and thrown him in the Bastille? Outside, Syria is joining the search party. Rush asks, what is Lady Syria doing out with the search party? His aide replies, perhaps she wishes to accompany them out of concern for her intended. But then he wonders, concern? I have noticed how she's changed into a completely different person over the course of a year. Was it all because of love? He smirks. How droll. Rush then orders his aide, go inform Lady Syria that she is not permitted to take a single step outside of this palace. Back inside, Syria's shocked. I can't leave? She's desperate. But I have to find Callus before the ceremony. Just then, Bibi enters. My lady, seeing him, Syria said, Bibi. Bibi said, we were forced to halt the search for today. The closer we moved toward the glacier, the more the blizzard intensified. We'll recommence as soon as the sun rises. Syria tries to remain optimistic. I see. He'll be able to make it back, won't he? Bibi continues. My lady, Archduke Burke asked me to pass on a message to you. Syria asks worriedly. The Archduke? What is it? Archduke Burke, in his message, directs to Bibi. You serve Lady Syria, do you not? Convey this message to her. I'll get that wretch into the wedding hall even if I have to hogtie him and toss him inside myself. Even if the day of the ceremony has come and you've yet to hear word, continue your preparations as normal. No matter what may come to pass, your wedding will proceed as planned, Bibi said. That's what he wanted me to tell you. His face was absolutely terrifying as he talked. Syria said. The High Church always spoke of punctuality. I don't know why, but apparently it's extremely important when it comes to the ceremony. Bibi said, you needn't be too distressed. The Archduke will be joining the search himself. Syria said, I've no doubt Callus will come back. I believe in him. It's the day of the Stern wedding, and a blizzard rages. Lena, clutching Callus's arm, pleads. It's much too dangerous to go out, Callus. You wouldn't possibly leave me here alone on my own, would you? Callus protests. But there's hardly any time left before the ceremony. Lena insists. Wouldn't it be all right to postpone it for a day or two? Besides, there is no way you'd ever make it in time. But Callus replies, I'm afraid that's not possible, not when it comes to a Stern's nuptials. It cannot be postponed. Lena reaches for him, calling his name. Callus! But then, he coughs violently, blood splattering. As he's grabbed from behind, she whispers in shock. Callus! The wedding. Callus, looking dazed and bleeding, says in a strangled voice. It's already begun. Syria! The wedding bells start to ring. You mean to say Marquis Hanaton never returned? Someone whispers. Apparently he's stranded. Surely he didn't run off with the saint, another guest comments. A wedding without a groom? What a humiliation for the Stern. When on earth is Marquis Hanaton going to arrive? Someone whispers. Surely he knows about these things. I just hope the rumors about him and Saint Lena aren't true, another person says. That isn't the problem right now. At this rate, Lady Syria's divine powers are going to explode. Bibi, seeing the danger, cries out. What did you just say? She grabs an attendant. What is going to happen? The terrified attendant stammers. Sir Abigail! Abigail screams. Lady Syria! Syria totters, blood dripping from her mouth. What's happening? She clutches her chest. Lady Syria! A Bibi shouts, priest said. No! You mustn't touch her! Bibi shouts in anger. Let me go! Her ladyship this is a stern ceremony. If she is touched out of turn now, her divine powers will become even more ensnarled. Only those who attended the commitment ceremony may do so. When is Marquis Hanaton coming? Someone shouts. Gather together all the stern insignia. I will use my own powers if I have to. Syria thinks desperately. And here I was thinking I'd managed to avoid the terrible ending from the original story. Is this really how I die? Coughing up blood, she wonders. Why? Because Syria is a villain? But I didn't do anything to get in the main character's way. All I wanted was to live. What on earth did I do wrong? Suddenly, Rush bursts through the doors. Your Grace! You mustn't touch the stern. It appears we are all about to die. Do you expect to solve anything by standing about gawking? He reaches Syria, who looks up at him in shock. Syria Stern, get a hold of yourself. You cannot die. Wouldn't it be too unjust for you to perish this way? Squeezing his hand, she weakly replies. Yes, dying like this would be much too pitiful, Your Grace. Her grip loosens. Rush said. Prepare for a commitment ceremony at once. A priest protests. Your Grace. But that would mean. Rush, eyes burning with determination, declares. The Stern's wedding shall proceed as scheduled, he vows, with Syria still in his arms. Syria Stern will be saved, by whatever means necessary. Then, a flashback. Syria is pleading. Please don't kill me like this, she cries. I want to live. Spare me. I beg you. She heard someone shouting, Syria! Syria Cetrene! Syria wakes up with a gasp, tears streaming down her face. Rush is there, gently wiping her tears. Are you awake? Your Grace, she whispers. He asks. I really cannot understand you, Lady Syria. What on earth was happening in your dream to make you weep so? Syria looks at him, confused. Was I crying? Rush replies. Would I wake you otherwise? She said so. You were the one who was calling my name, he asked gently. That's right. What were you dreaming of? After a moment, she responds. I was dying. Rush's expression hardens. Are you afraid to die? She replies. Isn't everyone? He adds. Well, after all of your hell-raising antics, I had always assumed you didn't fear such things. Syria is silent for a moment, then asks. And what of Callus? Rush gets tense. He wipes her head with piece of cloth as she said, What are you doing? He replied. Perhaps you have amnesia? He asked. Do you really not remember what transpired during the ceremony? The scene flashes back to the wedding ceremony. Rush stands at the altar, vowing. Therefore, I command the head of House Burke, Archduke Rush Burke, to swear an eternal oath to Syria Stern, the recipient of the constellation's blessing. Back in the present, Syria is stunned as she finally asks Rush, Are we, husband and wife, Your Grace? Rush simply replies, Indeed. Syria, still processing everything, he continues. The head of House Burke couldn't suffer the disgrace of losing a Stern. She asked, Then does that mean you were aware I could die? Before the ceremony, I mean. Rush confirms. Yes. Stern weddings are extremely strict affairs. In order to prepare for the worst possible scenario, it's customary for them to remain unaware of such a possibility. But their intendeds are always informed. As it is, they would also be in danger if the ceremony were interrupted, since the Stern's divine power would become ensnared. Syria's eyes widen. Are you saying that Callus already knew that I could die if he was late for the ceremony? The scene cuts to Callus, running through the halls. No! You mustn't, Your Lordship! He's shouting. He bursts into Syria's room, only to find her looking out the window, a cold smile on her face. Callus bursts into Syria's bedchamber. A maid said, The Archduke stated that no one is to enter Lady Syria's bedchambers without his permission. Syria said, "Please leave us. I have something to discuss with Marquis Hanaton." He shouts, "How could you, Syria?" He grabs her, shouting, "How could you marry another man? An Archduke Burke of all people?" But Syria slaps him across the face. "It was because you didn't come," she says coldly. "Me marrying another man? That was entirely your doing, Callus," she continues. "If it hadn't been for the Archduke, I would have died a horrible, agonizing death because of you." Callus winces, covering his face. "From the look on your face, you're wondering how I know that. You knew that I'd die if you were late, and yet you still, or was it that you actually wanted me to die? Is that why you went strolling about with Lena?" He said, "Syria, please. We ran into misfortune." He kneeled down, saying, "I didn't choose not to come." He begged, "I was worried sick about you. Even in the face of a raging blizzard, I tried everything I could to get to you. But then I suddenly lost consciousness in front of the door." He cries, "You know you're the only woman I've ever wanted to marry. Every declaration I've made to you has come from the heart. I love you. Truly I do." Callus reaches for Syria's hand. A surge of power knocks him back. Syria gasps, "What is this power? Wait, more importantly, how is Callus still alive? His own powers should have exploded like mine did as the price for breaking his oath. No, it can't be." Callus had already participated in a ceremony in which he had pledged to marry a Stern. It bound him to Sterns in general, which meant he could theoretically marry any of them. And not to mention, there was already another Stern on the estate. Syria, confronting Callus, demands, Did you marry Lena?" Callus, grabbing her arm, replies, "Syria." She yanks her hand back, saying, "I'm guessing you must have since you're still alive." Syria, reeling, thinks, "Just because I want to avoid the original Syria's fate doesn't mean I want to feel this miserable." Syria said, "It hasn't been long since I first fell in love with you, but I regret wasting even that much time." She thinks, "I suddenly have the sinking feeling that all those moments I spent walking on eggshells trying to please Callus." Callus insists, "It's nothing but a temporary marriage, just like how you temporarily married the Archduke in order to survive." Syria retorts, "And? Is that important?" She thinks, "All that time I spent playing the part of the charming, docile fiancé, it might have been leading me to another kind of ruin." Callus said, "Let us both get divorced and start over." Desperate, Callus cries, "All we have to do is go back to the beginning." "There's still time," Syria asks coldly. "Time? Is time really all that we need?" "My feelings for you have already disappeared." As Syria walks away, Callus pleads, "Please, let's discuss this." Syria yanks her arm away. "Let go!" Callus cries out, "Syria!" Syria flinches. She said, sighing, "I can sense another Stern's power emanating from you." Syria says, "It's quite repulsive, so I'd like it if you stop touching me." Callus, pained, begs, "Please, Syria." Rush interrupts, "She told you to unhand her. Are you deaf now as well, Marquis Hanaton?" Rush glares at Callus, who falters. "Well?" Rush demands. Callus finally releases Syria's arm. Rush observes, "Your wound has reopened." She stutters, "Yes, slightly." Rush insists, "More than just slightly. We should send for a priest to treat you." Callus interjects, "I shall take Syria to the priest myself, Your Grace." Rush asked in Syria's town, "Why you?" Callus insists, "The two of us were in the midst of a discussion, so—" Rush cuts him off. "Lady Syria ought to be the one who makes that decision. Who would you like to accompany you?" Syria clasps Rush's arm tightly. Callus looks shocked. Syria smiles sweetly. "It seems I am beholden to you, Your Grace." Rush replies, "Beholden? Isn't such language rather excessive between spouses?" Rush says to his aide, "Lenin, summon a priest to my study." "Yes, Your Grace," Lenin answers. Callus is speechless. A priest tells Syria, "Please refrain from any vigorous movements for the time being, Lady Syria. I shall take my leave." Rush asks Syria, "Do you feel better?" Syria remains silent. Rush stares at Syria. "Aren't you going to say something?" Syria bows her head slightly. "I know it's rather belated, but thank you for saving me, Your Grace." Rush is startled. "What are you doing? Did you sustain a head injury as well?" Syria reassures him. "No, my head is fine. Well, I've only now come back to myself, so, thank you for saving me." Syria thinks, "I owe my life to the male lead, the person I thought was the scariest character in this story." She said, "I'm truly grateful." Continuing her thoughts, she thinks, after all, he wagered his first marriage in order to save me. The first marriage of the sole Archduke of the Jeru Empire. She said, I will do everything in my power to repay the kindness you have shown me. Syria says, please don't be too concerned, Your Grace. I shall do my best not to undermine your marriage prospects. Rush asks, marriage prospects? Syria replies, yes. Rush is surprised. This is the first time a woman has ever shown concern for those before. She said, even if you were to marry 2 or 3 times, regardless of the number, you'd still set ladies' hearts aflame, Your Grace. Rush asks, do you view me as some sort of lecher? Syria quickly replies, no, not at all. Rush chuckles. Syria said, I hope you won't be offended if I say I intend to do my utmost as a stern for the sake of this estate, for however long our marriage may last. Rush asks, why are you studying my reactions so intently? Are you afraid of me? Syria stutters, I wouldn't say that. Meanwhile she thinks, although the way you were presented in the story was pretty terrifying. Rush smiles slightly. In any case, hearing that you'll do your best for the sake of House Burke fills me with anticipation. Syria says, I will do whatever I can to live up to your expectations, Your Grace. Bibi is behind bars, looking absolutely miserable. My lady, are you all right? He asks. Syria is at the gate, worried. He continues, how did you know I was here? Syria replied, His Grace told them. Wait, that isn't the issue here. What possessed you to hurl your gauntlet at Callus's knights? That constitutes contempt. Bibi replied, I was only challenging them to a duel, my lady. Syria sighs, face palming. He continues, it took my last ounce of patience to refrain from flinging it directly at Marquis Hanaton. She tells Bibi, please do something about that temper of your dash. But an annoyed voice interrupts. What Sir Abigail did wasn't a challenge to a knightly duel. It was practically a rampage. It's Sir Eliot. Ah, Sir Eliot. He continues, saying, you only narrowly avoided being expelled from the Empire altogether, Sir. Bibi glares, but Sir Eliot just smiles. But no need to worry. Thanks to His Grace's mercy, she'll be free to go within a few days. Syria is relieved. How can I ever repay such kindness? Eliot replies, Abigail is the one who ought to repay him, Lady Syria. Syria, ever supportive, insists. Of course. Bibi is a true knight who knows to repay kindnesses. Bibi, clearly exasperated, asks, just how long are you two planning to hang around here? After that they both left. While walking together, Syria asked, isn't the dungeon rather cold? What if Bibi freezes to death? Eliot is shocked. Do you really think that's possible? Are you speaking in earnest, my lady? Syria replies, I'm concerned about her. Eliot retorts, she's the type to find a way out alive even if she were trapped inside a glacier. Honestly, where on earth did you manage to find such a robust knight? She adds, still, as soon as Bibi is freed, I'm going to bring her warm beef soup, and wrap her in the best, thickest cloak I can find. It might be good for her to stay in my bedchambers for the time being. Eliot starts laughing. Pfft. A flustered Syria asks, why are you laughing? Eliot answers, it's just, I think I can see why His Grace finds you so intriguing, Lady Syria. Syria is stunned. Syria, still processing it, asked, you mean that man? Eliot replies, yes. Back to a flashback of wedding day, Rush said, you cannot die. Wouldn't it be too unjust for you to perish this way? In other flashback he continues, in any case, hearing that you'll do your best for the sake of House Burke fills me with anticipation. Syria is blushing. Archduke Burke thinks I'm intriguing? Me? Meanwhile, Lenin approaches Eliot and Syria. The two of you seem to be enjoying yourselves, Syria exclaims. Ah, Lenin! Lenin looks pale and unwell. Your poor face. Are you all right? Syria asks. Lenin says, not especially, no. He explains, His Grace suddenly married, which necessitated requesting the imperial family's consent, and he also ordered that the banquet reception that was to be held for you and Marquis be changed to a year-end celebration. Syria is embarrassed. She thinks, it feels as though I'm to blame for all of this somehow. Lenin continues, ahem. But, of course, my labors are nothing compared to your work inspecting the glacier, Lady Syria. The lady of the castle would normally handle such matters with me. Syria thinks, oh. Lenin continues, but given the still delicate state of your health and the fact that your marriage to the Archduke has yet to receive royal approval, it's only right for me to manage everything on my own for now. Syria thinks, He seems concerned that I might be feeling guilty. She thinks, the people of House Burke are much kinder than I thought. Syria then smiles and says, Thank you, Lennon. Lennon replies, why yes, well, all you need do, my lady, is focus on preparing for the year-end celebration to be held the day after tomorrow. Syria responds, Of course. Lennon asks, Sir Elliot, if you're free, would you mind assisting me? A great deal of baggage needs to be moved. Elliot replies, I'm never at leisure, Lennon. Syria asks, Shall I help? But Lennon and Elliot both refuses. And no need, my lady. I will do it. 2 days later, Syria is being dressed for the year-end celebration. You are truly a vision, says Begonia. Syria asks, You don't think it's too flamboyant? Begonia says, You're soon to become an archduchess, my lady. This level of pageantry is perfectly acceptable. Syria said, The Archduke only married me to save my life, Begonia. She replied, I have often seen acts of kindness become destiny. Syria thinks, Destiny. There's a knock at the door. My lady, it's… Lena appears, looking distraught. Syria! Please speak to me for a moment. Begonia is shocked. That. Have you lost your mind, Saint Lena? Syria gestures to Begonia. Could you please leave us, Begonia? Begonia hesitates. But, Syria says, I'd like to hear what she came to say. The door shuts. Syria and Lena sat at sofa, and Syria said, We're alone now. What is it you want? Lena starts. Please don't place too much blame on Callus, Syria. He was only, you see, I kept pestering him about how much I wanted to visit the glacier. I had no idea there was going to be a snowstorm. Syria replies. Lena, weren't you aware that Callus was my fiancé? Lena answers. Why yes, I knew that. But he is such a dear, dear friend. She continues. All I wanted was the chance to create one final, beautiful memory with him. Syria said. One final memory, Syria says. So now that you have that final, beautiful memory, you'll never see Callus again? Lena says Syria. Syria thinks. I ended up bullying her, just like in the original story. Lena sobs. I truly wanted the two of us to be friends. Syria sighs. Honestly, Lena, do you really think it's possible for a man's wife and ex-fiancé to become close? Lena asks. Why not? Syria replies. Pardon? Lena says, Callus and I aren't formally married. You know that, don't you? Syria said, That's between the two of you. It makes no difference to me. A maid came and said, Lady Syria, the time. Lena said, I really thought the two of us could become close. After all, wasn't the woman who gave birth to you a commoner who went on to become a performer? Hearing this, Syria gets shocked. After some time, Lennon said to Rush, Am I mistaken in thinking that Lady Syria was the very individual who collapsed during her wedding ceremony after suffering from massive blood loss? If not, then why haven't you stopped her from exerting herself so? Rush wonders, How can I thwart someone with such a clear willingness to work? He admits to himself. Besides, it's better for her to keep busy than to succumb to idle thoughts. He sharply asks Lennon, But do tell, why have you become so concerned about her welfare? Lennon flinches. He stammers, I am partial to individuals who swiftly and efficiently carry out their duties. He puffs up. Have you any idea how quickly the preparations for the year-end festivities were completed? It's entirely thanks to her ladyship that your grace can sit here and leisurely peruse documents a mere hour before the ball. He asks. But what, may I ask, has you so engrossed? Lennon looks up, surprised. He's reading a report. Burke will invite a sorcerer from the kingdom of Nesla to cleanse the demons of Laurel Manor. If this final purification proves to be too difficult, then, Lennon presses, I take it this will be your final visit to the manor. Will you be taking Lady Syria with you? Rush rises. I suppose I should. However temporary our union may be, we are still husband and wife, Lennon said. I look forward to hearing what the demons there will say when they see Lady Syria. Rush agrees. Yes, as do I. Lennon then asks, Where are you off to, your grace? Rush said, The festivities are about to begin. He smirks. I would be heartless if I neglected to escort my own wife. Rush strides down the hall, lost in thoughts. He stops seeing Callus. What are you doing here, Marquis Hanaton? Callus replies. I came to collect Lady Lena. Rush raises an eyebrow. The saint? What is she doing back? Callus shrugs. I am not sure myself. Rush scoffs. Honestly, that saint, he asks Rush. Your grace, when do you intend to annul your marriage? Rush's eyes narrow. No? Callus continues. You have my deepest gratitude for saving her life. I will fully recompense you in the name of House Hanaton. Rush is not impressed. How amusing. Why would you repay my wife's debt? Callus is taken aback. Your Grace. Rush asked, are there any ties binding the two of you? Callus hesitates, then said, I have every intention of divorcing Lady Lena. Furthermore, I alone have received Marquis Keladon's formal consent to marry Syria. Callus continues, have you contacted House Keladon, Your Grace? Rush thinks darkly. Of all the absurd, I leapt into this marriage to save her life. Of course, I didn't consider such a thing. All of this is his fault. How dare he put on such airs? Rush turns to leave saying, you're certainly full of bluster for someone who tossed his fiancé's life into the mire. Callus cries out, Your Grace! That was… Meanwhile someone shouts, Lady. They both spins around while they heard someone shout, Lady Syria. Meanwhile, in the drawing room, several minutes prior, Lena is being awful. Wasn't the woman who gave birth to you a commoner who went on to become a performer? Regardless of how pretty she might be, her mother was still nothing more than a lowly actress. But Syria is beyond sensitive about her mother. It was only mentioned once in the story, but Syria was extremely sensitive to those words. No, that'd be an understatement. She was enraged like a mad bull. Even though I'm only possessing this body, maybe that's why. Lena continues to dig her grave. I like your parentage, Syria. What does it matter if your mother was a commoner? I'm also a commoner, so we're the same, Syria thinks. I've found I can't control my anger whenever I run into members of House Keladon or hear any mention of Syria's birth mother. She glowers. Lena, oblivious, asks, Syria, why is your face? Syria raised her hand to slap, thinking. In moments like these, a slap echoes through the room. The maids gasp. Lena winces in shock. Syria stands over her, her face a mask of fury. Syria slaps her own face. Syria! Lena cries out. What on earth? Lena! Syria hisses. Where did you hear such a thing? Lena stammers. Oh, and my tutor! My tutor mentioned it to me. Syria retorts. You must be referring to Viscount Ison. Didn't your wise tutor also tell you that I despise any mention of that subject? Or that allusions to such sensitive family histories are considered grave insults between nobles? Syria thinks, if something like this had happened just a few days ago, I would have done everything in my power to run. Lena said, it's not Viscount Ison's fault. I just don't understand such things very well. Syria thinks, but how long do I have to keep bending over backwards for them? Lena and Callus have taken turns screwing me over, and I've just stood there and taken it again and again. I'm the villainess here. Aren't I allowed to be angry? She looms over Lena. No matter how often Callus claims your marriage is only temporary, you are still the Marchioness of Hanaton, a saint, and, like me, a stern. Someone of your standing cannot go about saying whatever comes into your head and embarrassing everyone simply because you don't understand. Syria, Lena starts to apologize. Syria cuts her off. You aren't a nursling, Lena. Please be more mindful of your position in the future. She turns and walks out, the door slamming shut behind her. Syria thinks to herself, should I go and tell the priest what Lena said? If I tell him that she insulted me, then what? Would telling him change the fact that I'm the villain? I should go back in. Begonia must have been shocked. She spins around and bumps into someone. Suddenly, Rush grabs her arm. Lady Syria? What on earth are you doing? He demands, his red eyes blazing. Syria, startled, can only ask, Your Grace? Rush's absolutely fuming, grabbing Syria's arm. What on earth are you doing? He demands, his red eyes blazing. Syria looks up at him, tilting her head. Your Grace? What are you doing here? Did you follow me? Rush's not having it. What are you talking about? I've been behind you ever since you left the room. Syria's surprised. Really? He's a little embarrassed, admitting. I thought I was making enough noise to call attention to myself. Syria said I must have been too deep in thought to notice. Syria can't help but giggle. Rush stares at her for a moment, then reaches out, his gloved hand gently touching her cheek. Syria is flustered. He's looking at her so intensely. Rush finally speaks. Somehow, this seems to bear the hallmark of your past activities. Syria's thought process is going crazy. How did he know? You are correct. I did indeed slap my own cheek. I was in the midst of a minor disagreement with Lady Lena when… Rush interrupts, raising an eyebrow. A disagreement? Syria tries to downplay it. Nothing serious. We merely. She's panicking inside. He's going to ask what happened, isn't he? I don't really want to talk about Syria's mother right now. Instead, Rush smoothly changes the subject. We should get some air before going into the ballroom. That cheek ought to be cooled. Syria's relieved, even if she thinks, I guess he's not curious. Rush turns and walks away, asking, Aren't you coming? Syria snaps out of it, replying, Yes. Of course, Your Grace. She thinks, or maybe, could he be concerned about me? Suddenly, a voice calls out Syria. Callus looks at them from up. Syria and Rush keeps walking while talking to each other. He grips the railing tightly as he stares at them. Syria! Later, Rush and Syria sit together on a bench. Syria peeks at Rush. He notices, asking, Why do you keep looking at me? Oh, she thinks, weren't his eyes closed? She says, I'm worried your white clothes will get soiled out here. Syria giggles. He smiled and said, Really, Lady Syria, sometimes I wish I could open up that head of yours and peer inside. Syria is surprised. And my head? Why? Rush replies, Your mind moves in such various ways. Anyway, I can honestly say that it would be such a shame if your dress were to get ruined as well. Syria looks down at her dress, asking, Oh, do you like it? Begonia recommended it for the banquet. She felt the one I originally picked out wasn't suitable. Rush stares at her, and Syria thinks, what's with the blatant staring? He snaps out of it, saying, We should get going. The festivities must have begun already. He is flustered, Syria said. Oh, that's right, Your Grace. Did Marquis Hanaton happen to stop by the annex? Rush pauses, then asks, Why do you ask? Syria replies, Oh, well, I thought I smelled his cologne. There is a specific kind he likes to wear to events. His cologne, Rush asks, curious. Syria continues, It's quite a unique scent, or so I remember. Meanwhile she thinks, his face, she asked, Have I offended you, Your Grace? Rush, now seeming a little impatient, says, Come, don't tarry. We'll be late. Oh, yes, Syria replies. Rush thinks to himself. She even recalls the smell of his cologne. Was she really so fond of that knave? As Lena and Callus walk towards the ballroom, people whisper, Those two still came after all that's happened? Indeed. It's downright shameless, Lena said to Callus. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable, Callus. Why don't we? Callus interrupts her. Lena, are you really not going to tell me what happened between you and Syria earlier? Lena is visibly uncomfortable. I already did. I only wanted to apologize to her, but she caused a scene. I'd rather not think about it anymore, so please stop mentioning. The announcer booms, presenting His Grace Archduke Rush Burke and Her Grace Syria Stern. Syria smiles, looking radiant. Callus watches them enter, thinking, Syria. As Syria and Rush walk by, people whisper, Heavens, just take a look at Lady Syria. She's simply stunning. And their evening wear is so well coordinated. Others comment, Should we be referring to her as Her Grace now? Someone else says, She's truly worthy of being called the star of the evening. Lena grits her teeth, watching Syria bask in the attention. Rush asks, You didn't rescind their invitations? Rush clearly wants to know why Syria didn't kick certain people off the guest list. Syria said, What would I have told them? Any number of reasons. Syria stands her ground. They deserve to be here just as much as I do. It isn't as though I'm the star of the evening. Rush just stares at her, speechless. Then he asked, If not you, then who? Meanwhile, Lena was about to get close to Syria when Syria said, I feel as though I'm just a third person caught between the two of them. Suddenly, someone stops her. Lady Lena! He grabs her arm, pulling her away. Didn't I advise you not to go near Lady Syria for the time being? Rush, overhearing this exchange, is not impressed. He asks Syria, Do you enjoy belittling yourself? She said, I can't think of any other way to view things. Syria, he says softly, This evening's revelries are for you, he reminds her. Not for the two of them. Shall we? Rush extends his hand with a charming smile. It's customary for the star to open the ball. Syria, blushing, accepts his hand. Yes, Your Grace. And just like that, the music starts, and Rush and Syria take to the dance floor. But not everyone is happy about it. Why are Archduke Burke and Syria the only ones dancing? Lena whispers. The person next to her said, Because His Grace is of extremely high rank. The Archdukes of House Burke have been on the same level as the imperial family since time immemorial. What about Callus and me? Lena wonders. Well, the two of you are also individuals of extremely high standing, my lady. But within the Empire, the distinction between nobility and the imperial family is a strict one, Lena just says. I see. Someone leans towards the person and whispers. Marquis Hanaton is looking for you. Ah, of course, he replies, and then he said to Lena. Excuse me for a moment, my lady. Lena thinks. Maybe that side would have been better after all. Outside on the terrace, a guard receives instructions. Please do not allow anyone onto the terrace. Yes, Your Grace. Syria sighs as she stands alone on the balcony. They say you never know what the future holds, she muses. Up until a few days ago, I thought I was going to become the Marchioness of House Hanaton. If my marriage to Callus had gone smoothly, would I have been able to avoid Syria's fated ending and live out a quiet, happy life? I thought Callus's feelings were real, but he still couldn't shake free of Lena, just like in the original story. Does that mean everything else is going to follow the novel as well? The image shifts to Rush whispering to Syria at the ball. This evening's revelries are for you, Syria thinks. I don't even want to think about any of that. Suddenly, she hears her name. Syria! She turns to see Lena standing behind her. Lena! Lena's expression is serious. Let's finish our talk from earlier. Back inside, Rush asks, Lenin, have you seen Syria? Lenin replies, I believe the Archduchess went out on the terra. But he stops and changed the talk. Wait a moment. When did you begin referring to her grace by name? Rush said. You mean the Archduchess's terrace? Lenin recalls Syria saying, The Archduchess's terrace? I can't go out there. I have no right. Lenin had said to her, still, talking a quick tour wouldn't do any harm. He said to Rush, It's been closed off for such a long time. Temporary marriage or not, I took this chance to reopen it now that there is an Archduchess again. Lenin is still panicking. Was that too presumptuous? I could, of course, CLO. Rush cuts him off. No need. She rarely has the chance to be alone here. We see Callus watching them from afar. Allowing her a moment to herself wouldn't be a bad thing, Rush thinks. Meanwhile, on the terrace, Syria said to Lena, This is the Archduchess's terrace. Even the Archduke isn't permitted to come out here. How on earth did you? Lena tries to interrupt. Lena, she continues. I told Callus that I want a divorce. Syria isn't even shocked. And? Lena's eyes fill with tears. I've heard that it's just as difficult for a Stern to get divorced as it is to get married. Maybe we won't be able to finalize things right away, but I promise I am going to return what I've taken from you, Lena says, clasping Syria's hands. Syria pulls her hands away. It seems you've misunderstood. It wouldn't matter to me if you were to part with Callus because of divorce or death. Nothing would change. Syria yanks her hand away. I no longer have any feelings for him. Just what is it you want from me, Lena? I don't want anything from you, Lena cries. It's just that Syria pauses, noticing something. That scent. She turns towards the door. Callus? Inside, Lena is having a full-blown crisis. I know I'm not important here. Callus overhears, looking concerned. I feel as though I'm just a third person caught between the two of you. Syria is stunned. Those words, that's exactly what I said to Rush earlier. Why did she say that now? Syria thinks. I never had any intention of butting heads with Lena. Syria whispers. Lena, Callus is right over there. She thinks. I already know she is the main character of this story, which is fine. All I want is to survive. Syria continues. I'm sure you can see him more clearly than me from where you're standing. So why would you say such a thing? Syria thinks, is the way she keeps steering my actions. Syria is suspicious. Did you want him to hear? Was it because you didn't want him to mistake your sincerity? Or was it that you wanted to make me look like the one in the wrong? She thinks, because I am fated to forever be the villain of this story? She rubs her cheek. Why? I've never once done anything to you, have I? I'll go since you refuse to leave, Syria says, turning away. Syria! Lena cries, reaching out. But as she touches Syria, something happens. Syria's eyes widen. Syria! Suddenly Lena disappears, leaving one of her shoe. Syria, surprised, asked, Lena! Callus stares up at the moon, clearly shocked. His eyes widen as he turns towards Syria. Syria, still in shock, thinks, the moon? Did Lena just... Could it be? Callus moves forward, saying, Syria! Did you... He asked. Did you just push Lena off the ledge? He looks absolutely horrified. Syria's face is a mask of composure, but there's a flicker of something unreadable in her eyes. What? She asks, as Callus, followed by a guard, rushes toward her. The guard said, Why, your lordship? What are you saying? She gasps, but then her expression hardens. Honestly, Callus, do you really intend to hurt me until the very end? Her eyes begin to water. Callus looks stricken. Syria, I meant. Suddenly Lena appears floating in air, surrounded by a golden glow. Lena! Callus shouts, reaching out. In the story, Lena passes back and forth between her world and this one several times. It seems Lena has just been transported back to her original world. Lena, falling, calls out, Callus! He catches her in his arms. Are you alright? What just happened? He asks, clearly shaken. Syria thinks, I wasn't expecting the first time to happen tonight. Lena clutches at Callus, her face full of fear. No, not yet! Please, please help me! Callus tries to calm her. Lena, calm down! He's so confused. Not yet? Syria wonders. I think the second time takes place after she disappears from this world for a year. Whatever. Syria thinks, sighing. It has nothing to do with me. She turns away, hurt. I never thought Callus would suspect me of being a murderer. Callus calls out, Syria! He looks desperate. I misspoke earlier. Please don't make that FAC. Syria spins around, her eyes narrowed. Syria! He calls out again. She thinks, ever since I've come to possess the body of an irredeemable villain, I've done everything I can to survive. Syria walks down the stairs. It hasn't been easy trying to save a reputation that's hit rock bottom. Even if I couldn't undo all of Syria's past evils, Callus must have seen all the good deeds I've been doing to make up for it. I was thrilled when he proposed to me. She sinks to the ground, covering her face. Ha! It felt like all of my hard work was finally paying off. Even though he did end up choosing Lena and brought me to the brink of death, I still never would have suspected that all the hard work I've been doing this past year would just vanish in an instant like this. To hear a man who was just clinging to me and telling me he loved me say something like that. She recalls him saying, Did you just push Lena off the ledge? Syria's eyes widen. Just the fact that Lena disappeared made him suspicious of me. It was all for nothing. Rush finds her sitting on the steps, upset. Syria? He asks gently. She looks up at him, wiping her eyes. I always seem to let you see me in this state. Rush crouches down beside her, a soft smile on his face. Yes, just as I always seem to find you in this state. Did you hear everything? Syria asks. Well, the Marquis and the Saint were speaking quite loudly. Rush replies. I see, she said. Rush looks at her, concerned. You seem close to tears. He reaches out and gently wipes a tear from her cheek. Yes, I suppose I do feel a bit like crying, Syria replies softly. He puts his arm around her, comforting her. Later, Syria and Lenin are inside. The high priest took Lena away? Syria asks. Yes, he arrived in a fury and whisked her off, Lenin replied. High priest Amos? Syria seems surprised. She thinks, he can be stern, but he's not the type to get angry. Syria asked. Did you come to my chambers this early in the morning to discuss that? Startled Lenin replied. Oh, well. It seems His Grace hasn't broached the subject with you yet, but… What subject? Syria asks, confused. Lenin said. Have you by chance heard of Laurel Manor, Your Grace? Suddenly the door knocked. Callus came in. Syria, he says, his face pleading. Please give me a moment of your time before you go. I beg you. Lenin looks annoyed. Pardon me, Marquis Hanaton, but am I invisible to you? Callus ignores him. Whether you remain there or leave is your own affair, he snaps. My lord, that is completely… Lenin starts to protest. Syria, Callus says, his voice cracking. I am sorry. I know apologizing this way cannot heal all the wounds I have inflicted on you. But can you not give me one more chance? Syria's expression hardens. Callus, she says coldly. What difference would it make if we started over? Are you certain you wouldn't go to Lena if she asked for you again? Callus hesitates. Syria said. No. You would run back to her side the moment she called your name, Syria says, her voice filled with bitterness. What was it you asked me yesterday? Did you just push Lena off the ledge? Not even the servant jumped to that conclusion. You were the first to question my innocence, Syria said. But I can understand why. My reputation is quite formidable. Besides, You nearly lost your arm because of me. You've hurt me too deeply. I don't want to live like this any longer. She thinks, I refuse to continue swallowing my misery just to avoid a tragic death, she said, and I don't want to keep worrying about whether you'll eventually run off to Lena. Syria smirks, thinking, I won't try to convince myself that all of these absurd situations are somehow connected to the original story. I refuse to be afraid any longer. In other words, let's end things once and for all, she declares. Callus is stunned. He watches as Syria throws the engagement ring onto the floor. Lennon, let us continue our conversation outside, she says, turning to Lennon. Yes, my lady, he replies. Syria and Lennon leave, and the door slams shut. Callus kneels on the floor, picking up the ring. I'm sorry, he whispers, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, Syria,